guys, it's your old pal Tony Giles, TG here, welcoming you back once again into the record room. And instead of doing a themed episode, I figured I would show you some of my recent pickups and some of the things I've actually been listening to recently. And the album you see before you now, this is Sanguisugabogg, Tortured Whole. And I believe I'm saying that correctly, Sanguisugabogg, and that's apparently what that says there. That says Sanguisugabogg. And as you may have guessed from looking at the record, yes, this is one of those beautiful death metal albums. And I'm a big fan of like early Cannibal Corpse, stuff like that. This album just stokes my fire in so many ways. It is absolutely incredible, punishing, brutal, just absolutely fantastic. I know the mark of I know how great a record is when I play one of the music videos or a clip and my wife just looks at me and just looks at me disappointed. That's how I know. But I love this. I checked this out. I think I'd read something online about the band and I thought, oh, you know, that sounds pretty cool. So I jumped online and I grabbed myself a copy of the album. I have the standard black vinyl version. There are, I believe, a couple of vinyl variants, but there's a track here. I think it's this one, Pornographic, which is just an interlude or like a keyboard track. It's so good. So incredibly good. And the album's cool. It comes with an insert and the lyrics if you would like to growl along. And it also comes with an album poster. I won't be able to fold it all out for you, but you get a nice poster as well, which is pretty cool. And this is the standard pressing of the album. This is not a special edition in any way, but I believe it is 180 gram vinyl. Or maybe 140, 160, something like that. But it's very cool. It sounds insane. It sounds so brutal. I played this so loud that the folks outside my house did look funnily. And sometimes I do that as a, you know, kind of a little bit of fun and games for myself. When I'm in the record room, I will crank something with the windows open and just see if anybody looks. But yeah, there you go. Sanguisugabogg, Tortured Whole. This is the Dagger Red reissue of George Romero's Dawn of the Dead, composed by the wonderful Goblin. I recently was going through my collection and I only have 2 copies of Dawn of the Dead, which, you know, why do you need more than 1 copy? Well, if you've been watching this channel or following me for a while, you know that I'm the kind of guy that I like to figure out which version is the best sounding, and Dawn of the Dead has recently been the record I've been looking at to check out which version actually sounds best. So I already have a couple of copies and I picked up this Dagger Red copy very cheaply. I found this on eBay. It's in great condition, so be on the lookout for a comparison video coming to the record room very soon. I have a few different versions new to the record room, which I'm excited to talk about. And in fact, there's one right there. This is the Japanese pressing of Dawn of the Dead, or as you can see there, Zombie. And I've always loved this cover. Ever since I first discovered this Japanese pressing, I've always wanted it. Unfortunately, it is missing its obi strip, but it does have its insert. So it's not all bad, and you do get to see that kick-ass cover. Very unusual take on the cover for Dawn of the Dead, and a pretty bold move as well to not have the title. I believe it originally came with a hype sticker on the shrink. I bought this secondhand, didn't have the hype sticker. But just looking at that in a record store, you know, it's not automatically obvious what it is unless you're kind of a super fan. But I mean, if you look at the back cover, it gives you all the information you need there in a fairly graphic shot of a chap getting a bullet through his arm there. And this version, apart from the original pressings, I think most of the reissues also included the Zombie Sexy version, as it was known. So this version does include that. Even though this is a single LP, it does come with a gatefold sleeve. And yeah, there's a nice advert down there for the CD version. So you've already got the vinyl. Why not grab yourself a CD as well, you know, for those of you out there that enjoy CDs. And this comes on 180 gram vinyl as well. Odd choice for label text because you can barely see it even in the light. You really can't see it that well, but yeah, this is another great pressing. I do enjoy this one. Be on the lookout for that episode where I compare my different versions and basically pick which one I think is best. Now, this will be one of the very few times where I'll say that this cover or a different cover is better than the original Varese. As much as I love that original key art, this is like, they're coming to get you, seriously. They're like reaching out to get you, like so incredibly cool. And the back cover may even be better. A giant Goblin logo. No tracks, nothing, zombie by Goblin. How cool is that? And of course, they wouldn't need the track information as much because it does come with an insert, which is very cool. And for those of you out there that are on Instagram, you can follow me on Instagram. I'm at From the Record Room. I do post a lot of my records on there, things I'm listening to. So obviously you've got your track list in there. And as for the record, on the 7 Seas label, Nippon Herald presents film Zombie Dawn of the Dead. And there is actually a mispressing of this where the title is Down of the Dead, which I don't own. And no, I'm not into label variants, so I can knock that one off my list of things I do not need. Sticking with soundtracks, I have recently been going through, and as I mentioned before, finishing off my soundtrack wants list, and the Dunwich Horror, the original Varese pressing, had been on my list for a long time, and I just thought, you know what, it's time. It's actually time. And just look at that cover. That is something else, my friends. They do not make albums, or they do not make album covers, I should say, that look like that anymore. And the Dunwich Horror is just absolutely fantastic. Les Baxter's score, it's psychedelic, it's trippy, it's haunting, it's groovy, it's marvelous. It's absolutely fantastic. I would highly recommend this to any soundtrack fan out there or any psych fan. This is definitely a must-have. Les Baxter's score for the Dunwich Horror. Back when record covers didn't have awful cartoon artwork all the time. You know, this is so cool. This is, I mean, if I didn't know what this record was, I'd just look at that cover and yeah, I want to know what's going on there. And then you've got the classic Varese back cover there, some information about the film, and just everything about this cover is inviting. It genuinely is. Such a big fan of this. And also, if you haven't seen the movie, Dean Stockwell in this movie is great. And how cool is this? An old Varese anti-static sleeve there. You can see the different labels, or I don't know if you can actually see them, that use these sleeves. Varese, Chalfont, I don't know, Citadel, and Starlog. The old, I believe Starlog was a magazine that also had, they sold records from the back of the magazine. But yeah, this is a nice clean copy. Wasn't super cheap, but again, it wasn't super expensive either. It's just all round, this is a fantastic record. If this is missing from your soundtrack collection, or you're not familiar with it, more importantly, go on YouTube and check it out. It is phenomenal. Now, I fully admit I am not much of a classical fan, only because I don't know a heck of a lot about classical music, really. You know, outside of the mainstays, my knowledge of classical music is not that great. However, I've been getting more and more into audiophile vinyl recently. An audiophile vinyl is essentially just higher quality pressings. And this Respighi Pines of Rome, Fountains of Rome is regarded as one of the best kind of audiophile pressings. And so I figured I would track it down, see how it sounds. And yeah, it sounds absolutely incredible. The record is just brilliant. And I really like the music as well. I wasn't sure I was going to, but it's fantastic. It's brilliant. It's very dynamic and very powerful, and did remind me of classic film music in so many ways. So if you're a fan of like the classics, like, you know, your Jerry Goldsmith, your Elmer Bernsteins, your Alex Norths, you know, the classic Bernard Herrmann, you know, the OGs. Maybe give this one a try. You know, you can still pick this one up. I think I paid, it was about £30, something like that. Audiophile pressings do tend to be a little bit more expensive, but they do tend to be worth it. Respighi's Pines of Rome and Fountains of Rome. The cover replicates the original Living Stereo just so well. It's got the beautiful, beautiful tip-on jacket here. This one is reissued by, I want to say it's Acoustic Sounds. I believe there is a little thing inside. Yeah, Analog Productions rather, not Acoustic Sounds, but you do get a nice catalogue inside, which I think is very, very cool. And then you get a pamphlet. Well, it's like essentially liner notes discussing the record and, you know, what to do about the remastering, which is very, very cool. And this has actually been remastered at QRP, Quality Record Pressings, which is a pressing plant. And this is actually pressed on 200 gram vinyl, which, I mean, I'll show you I don't know if that looks thicker or not, but it's 200 gram vinyl. And it's just, this is beautiful. It's so nice. It's actually reflecting everything in the record room right now, but it looks, there's just something about a really clean looking black vinyl record that just, oh, it takes me back. Fantastic pressing, genuinely brilliant sounding recording. Cannot say enough good things about this. Up next is the latest album from Lana Del Rey, Chemtrails Over the Country Club, and I fell in love with this album from the first playthrough. It's so good. Reminds me a lot of her early stuff, but does incorporate some of the newer material too. It's a fantastic album, you know. Ever since her debut, or the Born to Die album, I should say, I've been a fan of Lana Del Rey, and yeah, I just haven't stopped. I like how her career, her songwriting has progressed, and I'm even a big fan of her poetry album or spoken word album as well. But Chemtrails Over the Country Club has received probably the most spins recently inside the record room. It's just a phenomenal album. If you haven't already picked it up, I would recommend doing so ASAP. Again, this is a gatefold sleeve. Some very nice pictures on the inside. It's a single LP as well, and what I didn't know is, even though I love this cover, I really do, there is actually a variant with this picture of Lana on the cover, and I love that picture. I think it was a HMV exclusive, I'm not entirely sure, but I love this picture, so I will try and maybe track that one down. And there you go, you can see the back cover there. And this record, as much as I'm kind of almost loath to admit it, this is actually the Amazon exclusive. And this comes on, they class it as beige vinyl. And I guess it is in person. It looks probably more beige than it's coming across on the screen. But there is some nice marbling on this as well. So it's a great looking album. It sounds fantastic. I cannot praise this enough. This and the Rob Zombie have been getting some serious turntable time in the record room, and I would highly recommend checking them out if you haven't done already. And speaking of new releases, we've got the latest from Rob Zombie here, the Lunar Injection Kool-Aid Eclipse Conspiracy. Try saying that 3 times fast. This is a brilliant album. The last couple of Zombie albums, I'll totally be honest, I haven't been a massive fan of. There have been a couple of tracks that have kind of, you know, got the head rocking. But this album is like a best of Rob Zombie as far as I'm concerned. It's just brilliant from start to finish. I was surprised at how much I enjoyed this. And because the last couple of albums haven't really stoked my fire, I went online, I listened to this digitally like 3 or 4 times in a row. And I thought, yeah, you know what, I just need to go and buy this because this is great. And this is actually the black vinyl version as well. I'll show you all the bits and pieces. It's a brilliant rocking album. Not a duff track on there. There's even some kind of, you know, comedic stuff. It's just good. If you like Rob Zombie from kind of any era, you're gonna need to have this. The Lunar Injection Kool-Aid Conspiracy. What a crazy name. A single LP, but it does come with a gatefold sleeve. Some kind of warrior on the back, which is pretty cool. 17 tracks. The first one is one of those short instrumentals, but it's still pretty good. And there you go, you got a lovely picture of Mr. Zombie on the inside there, looking as only he can look, which is pretty cool. And something you don't get a lot these days, and I really appreciate this kind of a thing. you get a super thick booklet inside. And mine is just the standard version. I know there are different versions, but yeah, you get this really cool printed booklet. And this wasn't an expensive LP. I want to say this was, you know, around £20. It's not super expensive at all. So yeah, that's very cool. And there's plenty of artwork. And as I mentioned before, I have the standard black vinyl version because, you know, I believe black vinyl looks and sounds the best. That's just me. But, you know, Rob Zombie there on the labels. So as far as I'm concerned, this album is just 2 thumbs up all the way around. Okay, so the album you see in front of you is AC/DC's Back in Black, one of the most iconic albums of all time. And this is a recent addition into the record room after refiling and realizing I didn't actually own this album. I've had the CD for so many years, I just plumb forgot I didn't have the vinyl version. And so I had a little mission of tracking down a particular version. And yeah, I got the one I wanted, and yeah, it became a little bit of a project, which previous me recorded a little video about. So why don't we check in there? Hey guys, it's your old pal Tony Giles TG here, welcoming you once again back into the record room. Now, as you can probably tell, we're going to do things a little bit differently today on this episode. I'm not in my normal setup. I'm casually lounging in my lounging chair, but as I mentioned recently on an update video, I decided to divide my non-soundtrack vinyl collection into genres. So I went online and I ordered a bunch of album dividers, and they came, and you know, I couldn't be more happy with them. But while I was actually going through and organizing my albums, I realized that I didn't actually own a copy of AC/DC's Back in Black, which, let's face it, is basically criminal. So I decided to go and get a copy of the album, but the question then popped up, well, which version do I get? You know, this is arguably one of, if not the best-selling rock album of all time. And since its 1980 release, has probably had a fair few vinyl versions. And after going online, yeah, there are dozens and dozens and dozens of them. So then it became a question of, well, let's do some research and find out which version is regarded as being kind of the best sounding from an audio perspective. And I found out that there is actually a Robert Ludwig cut of the album. And for those of you that don't know, Robert Ludwig was a cutting engineer, and there's a very, very famous Led Zeppelin 2. It's not, well, I guess it is a variant in a way, but there's a Led Zeppelin 2 that he cut that is known as the Hot Cut. And essentially the album is really ballsy. It's really heavy. It sounds fantastic. But back in the day when the album first came out, turntables at that time couldn't handle the bass, and so the needle would jump off the record, and so the record was then recut, making that hot cut more desirable today as hi-fi has gone on and become more and more sophisticated. And well, there is a Ludwig cut of the AC/DC album as well, so I figured that's the version I want to track down. And it turns out there are actually plenty of copies of that cut. It's not massively hard to find. I went online and I tracked a copy down here in the UK. I only paid about £20 for it, which is about the same as a regular reissue. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to go for that. The only caveat was that this was listed as a VG record. Well, it turned up the other day, and the sleeve, I'll show you some more detail, but it's an embossed sleeve with the AC/DC Back in Black. The sleeve, it's not too bad. It really isn't. It does hit that VG mark, I guess. However, the vinyl itself looks less than VG. It's not quite good or poor or fair, you know, it's none of those. It's just, it's not quite VG. But then it got me thinking, well, I've just bought this new ultrasonic cleaning machine. Why don't I actually try and bring this album back to life? You know, I have no clue how it currently stands because I'm not going to put it on my turntable in the condition that it's in. And I'll show you what the record looks like in a sec. But the aim of today's episode is to bring this record back to life and see exactly how clean I can get it. Now, unfortunately, because of YouTube's copyright policy, I won't be able to play you any of the music on the album because it's fairly well known. But from a visual point of view, you'll be able to get an idea. And plus, I'll tell you straight up if it sounds good, if it sounds bad. And I'll let you know my general opinion. So I don't care how long it takes me. It could take me the rest of today. But I am going to get this album sparkling once again. So I'll show you some close-ups now of the record. And then the cleaning process shall begin. Okay guys, so this is the copy of Back in Black in question. I don't think I'll be able to zoom in on the matrix where you can see the RL for the Ludwig cut. And I'm not, you know, now I'm looking at this in the light, it's really hard to pick up some of the kind of dirt and grime. But yeah, let's just say it is not clean whatsoever. Okay guys, it's a little while later. The record has been cleaned thoroughly. And if you detect a giddiness in my voice, that's because I've just listened to the track Back in Black. And see, I almost lost my words then. My God, it sounds incredible. And Back in Black is probably the song I know most from AC/DC. I have to admit that I am more familiar with the Brian Johnson stuff than I am the Bon Scott. Guaranteed that's something I will rectify as soon as I'm able to. But wow. Obviously I have no other vinyl versions to compare this to. However, I do have the CD and I am able to play digital music through my stereo, which admittedly is coming from my laptop, so not the best digital source. However, I listened to Back in Black on digital source and a CD, and to say that this version pisses on them from a great height would be an understatement. There is the record just sounds clean. It's just got this brightness, this vibrancy that you just do not get on the digital. And I don't know how much of this will actually pick up, but the record cleaned up so nicely. It turned out so well. I mean, it's not mint at all, but it's definitely gone from like I would say a G or a VG up to a strong VG plus bordering on X just from listening to it. You know, I am absolutely blown away by how good this record sounds. And if you are curious, this is actually an American pressing of the record. So if you enjoyed this video and you want to track down a copy of this for yourself, yeah, that's the one you want to look out for. It's the Robert Ludwig cut. It's an American version of the record. There you go. You can see the label. So if you're out and about online, or you know, you do manage to get to a record store, that's the one you want to look for. And it will have the RL in the dead wax like I showed a picture of earlier. But guys, that'll do it for this episode of The Record Room. I cannot wait to listen to this album. I am so happy to be cranking this one. The sound was so good. Remember guys, be safe out there, wear your mask, wear your gloves, keep washing your hands, all of that good stuff. I'll be back very soon with some more regular content. But for now, stay gold and spin those blackest circles.